and this is the bus methodology. The bus methodology challenges the notion that we are or should be coherent in how we think, feel, and act. We developed this metaphor of a bus because we recognize that in the modern colonial world and systems and institutions that we spend our time in, we've been socialized and conditioned to think of ourselves as a singular being, as something that's stable and coherent. But in reality, we are complex and contradictory. And we have found that if we can't learn to sit with the complexity and contradiction within ourselves, we're not going to be able to sit with the complexity and contradiction of the world itself and learn to navigate it in a good way. So the methodology is premised on the notion that we all have a bus inside of us that is filled with multiple different passengers. And if you don't like the metaphor of the bus, you can try other images or metaphors that capture the idea of plural perspectives. So it might be people sitting around a campfire, or an orchestra, or a spaceship full of squirrels. Whatever works for you, you can try these metaphors. But in our experience, the bus metaphor really resonates with a lot of people, and it's proven really useful for doing this kind of composting work. So in the buses that we have, usually there's just one driver at a time. But different passengers on the bus will make themselves known through their thoughts, ideas, and affective responses to different things that are happening outside of the bus, basically to different stimuli. And usually we're somewhat familiar with the passengers and therefore the potential drivers that sit closer to the front of the bus, and less familiar with those in the back. The ones in the middle, we might kind of see emerge from time to time. Sometimes there are ones in the back that we don't even know are there until they're triggered by something outside of us and we surprise ourselves. So in order to use the bus methodology, we generally try to invite people to first learn to sit with and observe the different passengers that exist on their bus. You may already be familiar with some of these passengers, even if you hadn't named them as passengers before. But the reality is we tend to suppress those passengers that embody our shadow sides, the parts that we're embarrassed or ashamed by. So the invitation of the bus methodology is to become familiar with these and all of the other passengers, that is, the good, the bad, the broken, and the messed up. A fancy way of saying this is that we're engaging in a psychodynamic self-assessment to see the different parts of ourselves, but we prefer to use the bus metaphor. So learning about our different passengers is what enables us to develop more compassion for ourselves and for others, and to be better prepared to understand how these different responses within us are impacting ourselves and other people, and ultimately, hopefully, learning to recalibrate these passengers, not to kick them off the bus, but to recalibrate them and how they express themselves, rather than, again, denying them or allowing them to take the driver's seat in potentially unsafe ways. Because if there's a passenger that we're repressing at the back and we don't sit with them and see what's going on with them, it's very possible they're going to come and try to hijack the bus, and it can be really harmful for us and other people. So the idea is really that this practice can support us to decenter our egos, deactivate presumed entitlements and exceptionalism, disarm the defenses we have that might be unconscious and we don't even know are there most of the time, and also to try and de-amplify the harmful desires and projections that we have from different passengers on our bus. And this is what's going to enable us to ultimately have more space and more stamina to do the composting work we need to do in order to navigate these complex times. So throughout the course, we're going to invite you in various ways to pause and observe what passengers are emerging on your bus as you engage the course invitations, and how those passengers are responding. Again, accepting that they're there, accepting their responses without judging them, but also without endorsing or getting attached to them. And the more honest that you can be with yourself in this bus check-in process, the better the quality of your data, your self-data is going to be. So when you're assessing your bus, you can ask questions like, which passengers are making themselves known right now? What are they saying, thinking, and feeling? Are they responding from a place of fragility, trauma, or insecurity? What are they projecting onto others? How old are these passengers? How comfortable are they with uncertainty? How do the passengers relate to each other? What does each passenger need? And how does this maybe differ from what they want? You can also ask more general questions about the state of your bus rather than specific passengers. So for instance, is the bus processing? Or is there something burning that needs to be expressed by the bus? Or maybe even vomited by the bus if we're going down rocky roads? And if so, if something needs to be expressed or vomited, with whom is it appropriate to vent or vomit? Who can hold the metaphorical vomit bucket without being harmed in the process? What processing can be done on one's own? So an example of this might be if you've enacted some kind of relational mishap or misstep, it may not be the most generative to process that with the person that you had this interaction with, but there might be someone else to process with, or maybe you can do that processing on your own with your own bus. And then people might also find it useful to ask questions about the landscape that the bus is navigating. So for instance, what is the weather like? What are the conditions of the road? Is there maintenance happening on the road? Do we need to stop and pull over? Do you know which direction the bus is going in? And who in the bus is deciding which direction to go in? The bus is also useful for when you're processing course materials asynchronously on your own time. There are going to be times throughout the course when you're asked to debrief collectively, as I said, or work with it in other ways. And remember that in these moments, when we're in a shared space, you're not being asked to confess everything that's happening on your bus. It's not a confessional exercise. We're not asking to hear what this passenger said and what this passenger said and describe all the passengers that are emerging. We're asking you to take one step back in order to ask, what am I learning by observing all the passengers on my bus and how they're responding? And then we're in a collective space. You can ask a different question that's related, which is, what am I learning from observing other people process their bus by describing what they're learning from their bus?